I haven't felt this way since way back in the days when being in love was so simple. If you didn't like me, you just check no. But if you really like me, check yes. The kind of love that came with no stress. Staying up late on the telephone, talking about things that made us feel grown. Boy, I like the way you look at me. I think you really see who I really am. It's like you understand that we're gonna be much more than friends. La 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 la. I get this nervous feeling inside every time you stop by. I start to blush and acting real shy. I get a rush from you being so fly. You know just the right things to say. Intrigue my mind in many different ways. I can hardly wait till we kiss. Boy, when you look at me, I can't resist. Boy, I like the way you look at me. I think you really see who I really am. It's like you understand that we're gonna be much more than friends. You got me on this merry-go-round, spinning my head and feet off the ground. I love the way this love thing swings back and forth, must be the real thing. Why have you been away for so long? The way I feel, can nothing go wrong? Can't understand why I'm singing the song when I should be with you where I belong. La 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 la. La 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 la. See what you do, got me losing my head. Take the handsome smile of yours for me today. Boy, I like the way you look at me. I think you really see who I really am. It's like you understand that we're gonna be much more than friends. La 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 la. Boy, I like the way you look at me. I think you really see who I really am. It's like you understand that we're gonna be much more than friends. La 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 la. Boy, I like the way you look at me. I think you really see who I really am. It's like you understand that we're gonna be much more than friends. La 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 la.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I was on mute there. I'm so sorry. But welcome to this special interview this evening. Something that we needed to learn. We need to learn about something that we had promised. A few weeks ago, we had panelists on the show. We talked about cheating. We talked about infidelity. Listen, I always say I'm no expert. I can talk in plenty of things, but I know my area. I know the things that I can talk, and I can talk it with evidence, or I can talk it with experience, or I can talk it with knowing. And there's some things I can just say, but when it's something that I think that needs expert opinions, we have experts in our community. We have to be able to take advantage of our experts, and the fact that they even volunteer, and they agree and they come on without even paying them a dime. I value their time and I value their experience. Two of my favorite counselors are here tonight. We will introduce them in a little bit, but we wanted to say Happy Juneteenth Day. We don't want to ignore June 19th, Freedom Day. I hope you're whatever space you're in, you're trying to exhibit some form of freedom. Freedom of your mind, freedom in your space, freedom in your thoughts, just some freedom. Is sometimes the least thing we expect can put us in a space of solitude, but we want to be able to free ourselves on some of the things that we are faced with. Our guest tonight is Dr. Valah Clinton, my favorite, the two of them here tonight, and therapist Goumah Conde. Anytime, I know a lot of other people, but I'm so biased when it comes to these two people, because when Goumah finish the way, Goumah will even tell you hello, your problem will just be soft. And when Dr. Clinton, the man, he has all the tricks about interactions. He will just say that and put someone like him there for you to play. When you finish playing, as you enter the room, that's not how you're going to leave. And we're so privileged to be able to have them tonight. We're going to be talking about understanding the impact of infidelity, healing, trust, and moving forward. I'm going to bring our guests on so that we can start this show. Welcome, Goumah.
Thank you so much, Glenda.
And welcome, Dr. Clinton. It's good to have both of you here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
So to those who don't know you all, of course, it's customary, say a little bit about who you are so that those who are tuning in for the first time can get to know who Goumah is and who Dr. Clinton is. I'm so proud that these are Liberian experts. We have the people here. We have them all over. And when you have an opportunity, just reach out and use the resources that you need to be able to improve on things. So Goumah, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, thank you for having me again, Glenda. I am Goumah Bass Conde. I am, of course, from Liberia, West Africa. And I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I just like to say in short that my training is in marriage and family counseling and also in theology. I like to say that because I like to combine faith with practice. So those are the two things that I do.
Beautiful. Dr. Clinton?
So I'm Valah Clinton. I like to see myself as a licensed clinician who has worked with various populations, from forensic to domestic violence. And I am a community-based person, so it doesn't hurt to volunteer when it's necessary with the right people at the right time. So I'm not the free, accessible guy for any and every. So I come when it's necessary, and I talk about things that I know can be impacting the community as a whole. But I also like to put a disclaimer. Nothing I say, or maybe I can speak on behalf of both of us, I'm playing the big brother's role as well as the clinical
That's right.
role.
Thank you.
Nothing we say tonight is a professional advice to any of you.
Yes.
We will discuss the topic. We will get into the specifics. If there is a need, please seek professional help for whatever aspect of the discussion affects you personally. I don't want you to say Dr. Clinton said or therapist Goumah said. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And we appreciate your time and your experience, and the fact that you're here, of course, is valuable. And to our guests watching, please share the podcast. You can learn something just like I can learn something from this so that other people can be able to benefit. Tonight, we're going to be talking about understanding the impact of infidelity, the healing aspect, trust, and moving forward. So, like I said a few weeks ago, we talk about cheating. We just talk about it, cheating, the aspect of cheating in a relationship, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, the impacts they have on people. Why do people cheat? We look at that from our perspective. Tonight, I want to start off the show with Goumah, who will tell us a little bit what is infidelity. Let's talk about first what it is, what it does, and then we can go into our forum we have here to ask our questions.
So infidelity is really emotional or sexual intimacy that happens outside of a committed relationship, and it violates the boundaries that are established for that particular relationship.
Great. Dr. Clinton?
So I almost want to say Goumah said what I wanted to say, but I guess I get a chance, so I say something. Infidelity, really, as Goumah said, is twofold, in my opinion: emotional and or sexual. But to add to that, the hallmark of infidelity is more so the secrecy of it and the concealment of it. People may tend to forgive infidelity because of the triviality, say the sexual aspect of it is just the sexual aspect of it. But the betrayal is what makes it harder to even think about, let alone forgive.
Okay. So just a follow-up question on that. One, and can be a layman's question before we get into the nitty-gritty. Why do people cheat? Why is there infidelity? Why does it even exist? Why is it something that we have to talk about? Why do we even have to go through it? Either one of you can start first talking about why is it necessary for people to cheat on their partners, or why do they do it? It may not be necessary, but why do they do it?
I'll let you go first.
All right. So let me come from the Albert Einstein's point, where it is by nature that people will cheat. And the harder you make it, the more that drive is felt, and the more people feel the need to act on it. But that's Albert Einstein, who was married more than once, and one of his wives happened to be his cousin. But infidelity may stem from various places. Sometimes people have to understand that as a couple, you are inherently interdependent, whether you agree or not. And each person has a contribution in terms of obligation to that relationship. For that reason, sometimes you contribute to the reason the other person is cheating without even knowing. Something as simple as silence means permission for some. Something as simple as submission can be another reason why people can misinterpret submission to be consensual, and they do what they do, not necessarily understanding or believing that they're taking advantage of the relationship or of your good nature, but that it doesn't bother you. Incompatibility. Just some people just have what we call sexual dysfunctions that you don't understand, but because of those dysfunctions, they step out, not necessarily to cheat, but to satisfy that urge. So it's multiple to talk about, and so I'll leave some of it for Goumah.
So before we go to Goumah, something you said, did I hear you saying that when you make it harder, then people do it? Did I hear?
Yes. According to Albert Einstein, the harder society gets on people because of cheating, the harder. But let's bring it home as simple as when I was a kid, they always said the things you don't want children to repeat, don't tell them that they should not repeat it. Because
Hmm.
then the effort to not remember it, not the effort to remember not to repeat it is even less than the effort to repeat it. So that thing that you may take for granted, take for example, anything that you make criminal, anything that you make a law, be honest, the criminality of it increases, the crime rate goes up. So
Hmm.
if you say everybody can smoke weed whenever, you're not going to see people committing crime to find weed. But if you monitor it and you restrict it, you micromanage it, people who have the urge to have it will do everything they can to have it. And in that setting, you have additional crimes, and the crime rate will continue to climb.
Okay. Come on.
Yes, it's true. And in addition to that, I would say sometimes people cheat because they're also socialized to cheat, right? If you grow up in a culture or in a family where infidelity is just the norm of the day, nobody makes a big deal, people do it and they stay together, then I grow up believing that it's not a problem. And I don't expect my partner to see it as a problem. So that's one reason people cheat. The other reason is sometimes people want out and they don't have the courage to get out.
Hmm.
So they'll cheat so that the partner would ask them to leave or they'll end the relationship. So those are two other reasons that people would cheat. Sometimes too, it's a self-worth issue, right? I don't really see myself as pretty or as valuable or as important. So because I don't understand it, I blame you for it, and then I cheat because it's your fault that I don't feel good as a person.
Hmm.
So those are other reasons that people cheat.
Interesting. What are the most common emotional responses individuals experience after discovering their partner is cheating? And I think both of you, if you respond, will be good so that we hear Dr. Clinton's perspective from you. What are some of those emotional responses you find? First of all, I'm a wife. I find my husband cheating. I probably want to do something bad to him.
It's easier for me to compare that to the grieving process,
Hmm.
only because there is no one emotion a person experiences, and there's no set pattern of how you experience the emotions, because that is comparable to loss. So you discover your partner's cheating. The first thing, you're disappointed because this person has led you to believe that they were faithful to you. You're shocked. You're angry. You're surprised. You are confused. There's an influx of emotions. You don't know where to start. You don't know what to believe. Um, you want to hear from the person, but you don't. So you go through this sort of cognitive dissonance where you're sitting there and say, "Do I even want to have the conversation?" But I want to have the conversation. I really want to know what happened. I really want to know where I went wrong. What did I not do right? What caused this person to? So you go through that influx, and so there's no one emotion that I'll tell you this is the primary emotion you feel. But I always remind you that anger is a secondary emotion. So please don't miss the first one so that you save yourself any legal ramification for something you do under the guise of, oh, I was angry.
Come on.
Yeah, I would just say to that also, I think one of the three ones that I see a lot with couples, the guilt, shame, doubt, right? People start to really question self, right? What did I do wrong? What did I not get, right? What was I missing? How could I have missed it, right? All of those questions they'll ask. And then just the shame, especially depending on the culture you're from, the embarrassment that you're going to face. So there's a lot that people take on when it comes to these things. I agree with Dr. Clinton. It's almost like following the stages of grief, which is never really in one straight line, right? You go up and down, you go back and forth with emotions. So you can have a myriad of emotions going on at the same time, or you could have one that's just dominant.
So, but the thing about it, just a follow-up question on this question is the emotions that people share, and I kind of identify with the fact that people. I used to be a wife, so the first question would be, what did I do? Why do people who's been impacted by having someone who cheated on them try to blame themselves? Why are they saying? Why is it that? Why it had to be like? Did I do something?
I don't know if they are necessarily blaming themselves. However, guilt is a natural emotion, just like shame is. But they both put you in different places, and the response to each is different. So, after you get to the place where you ask that question, what did I do? Obviously, something is responsible for this infidelity. It may not be me, but why do I deserve it? It's the positive side of asking that question. Why do I deserve it?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to put yourself through that self-reflection. And what guilt does is, if at all you are any contributor to that, guilt allows you to take responsibility. Guilt allows you to accept your portion of it and address that. What shame will do is cause all of the negative reactions in you. So the shame will keep you away from the community. The shame will cause you to fight. The shame will cause you to, but you're not processing anything through that process other than the fact that I'm hurt. So I don't care where we go to sit and talk about this, we get the message that he hurt me or she hurt me. And so that's why people tend to say, why do I deserve this? And you get some people in the first place, why are you looking for with a man like that? Then they start to take some of that guilt, like I should not even allow myself to go out with somebody like that. But then they start to make excuses. And then you get all these things kind of cluster up, and you never get the full closure of anything that you're really seeking to find.
You have something to add, Goumah?
Yeah, I'll just say people are looking for answers, right? We are humans and we look for answers. And the way I always say it in our community is, think about back home, where if anything happens that we don't understand, what do we say? It's witch, right?
Yes.
Somebody with a whisper, somebody with
Oh,
shepherd.
that's how God wants it to be.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It's God's will. Right. So the truth is, we're always looking for answers. And the statement, what did I do wrong, or how did I miss it? Even though it may not be the appropriate answer, in some way it brings some kind of comfort while you're waiting for the appropriate answer. So sometimes it's just a way of filling in the gap, really.
So after you find this out, can a relationship truly recover and rebuild trust after infidelity? Because you have some people, they find out, they stay there, they find out, they stay there, they're stuck there. And you see it, you think the relationship is continuing, but can people truly recover from infidelity and rebuild their relationship?
My answer to that is it depends. But the short answer is yes, it's possible. And that depends on the commitment from both parties, the transparency, the honesty to make it better. I don't always like to use the word better because I feel like better is relative. So I always say to make it different. Yes. There are situations where like I said, it's easier for you to the I would call it victim in this situation to forgive because of the trivial nature. Also, well, it was sexual, and they have this thing where, quote unquote, sometimes it's a myth, but you never know. Man will be man, right? So you you see it as, oh, that was just another sexual affairs. So then you start to rationalize the difference between affairs and relationships. But if there was that real emotional connection, consistent, where that person's vulnerability, potential, everything is exposed to the other person, you can see that there was a deep level of intimacy, makes it difficult to come from that place to a place of trust anymore. Especially when you have been committed through the relationship and you've done everything to make that relationship work.
Come on.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, I've seen it happen. So it really, it is possible. I think that it depends on how sincere the affair partner is,
Mm.
and how forgiving the betrayed partner is, right? Because forgiveness has to take place for it to heal. And then honesty needs to be present. So I think if those two things are there and the love was there and people can understand, because not everyone who cheats is not in love with their partner. I think that's another thing that we need to express. Sometimes people cheat, they care about their partner and they still cheat. So, but once people understand that, they're able to work through it, because then that person is able to do something different, to use Dr. Clinton's a word, to do something different to make it work.
Wow. So how is it that you're loving? So we go in front of the church and God, just trying to inject God in the space. And you say, for better or worse, till death do us part. I love you, and all of those 9 years, and then you cheat. How is it that you love me, but you can cheat on me? How is
So
that?
I expected this question. So there's a really good book out there called it's called Not Just Friends. It's written by Shirley Glass, and she wrote this at the time she wrote this book. She had worked with about 210 unfaithful partners,
Hmm.
and she said 82% of those partners that she worked with cheated with somebody who they described as just a friend. Right? Part of what we know is that what predicts attraction is proximity. How close I am to you. That's why we say couples need to spend time together. That's why we keep saying it over and over and over. But because if we work together every day and we share deep information every day, and I have bad times and I turn to you and you turn to me, it's very easy for those things to happen. That doesn't mean I'm not in love with my partner. It just means that we were too close for comfort, and we were playing the not just friend situation, and all of a sudden, before we realize it, we've ended up into something deeper.
Okay.
Yes, and even research will show you that most times infidelity originates in work environment.
Yes.
So, you go for 8 hours. Oh, I'm working a double. You got this one person who shares lunch with you and so on and so forth, and is there to hear your stories and provide advice, and then sometimes, consolation. Those things can lead you to a place of connection that you're not looking for, but you don't have. See, you're not looking for it, but you don't have it.
Yeah.
And then someone makes you aware that these things are possible and they are available and they are accessible to you. Then you realize, oh, really, I don't have it. So this is what I'm missing. And the temptation comes. But I like to joke about the fact that, and this is biblical, but I just always joke, if Adam and Eve were together when Satan came, we would not be.
That's right.
but they weren't.
Amazing analogy. But
That's
the
right.
thing about it also is, so you're in a relationship, you have, and I don't know if there's a perfect marriage, but some
Mm.
people have a pretty good relationship, and then you have a another couple who may have a tumultuous relationship, not so good. People can speak about it not being good, but infidelity hurts no matter the relationship. Why is that impact of infidelity so strong, regardless of whether we have a perfect marriage or not a perfect marriage or relationship?
Right.
You want to go?
No, you
Be-
were.
it's because of the betrayal. Dr. Clinton
Hmm.
talked about betrayal early on. It's
Yes.
the betrayal. Betrayal is traumatizing. Betrayal sets us off our bearings, so to speak, right? So when we have something traumatic happens to us, we have stress, then we have traumatic stress. Let me just put it in that in those contexts. Something stressful is I have a difficult time at work. My boss gives me a hard time. Then I have to juggle the kids. Then I have to deal with my family. Then that's everyday stress. That is overwhelming for us as people. But then you have traumatic stress. Traumatic stress makes us literally question who we are, right? It makes us question who we are. It overwhelms us to where we're not able to function the way we normally would function. So it makes us feel weak. It makes us feel incompetent. All of those things. That's what betrayal does. So whether I'm in love with the person deeply or the marriage is thriving or it's not thriving, the idea that I feel like someone is committed to me, and all of a sudden I realize, oh, I didn't know what was happening here. This person was lying to me, and I feel like now I'm doubting my sense of self. I'm going to be in pain.
Okay.
So it's the betrayal that makes people hurt, whether they're thriving or they're not thriving.
And you couldn't have said that any better than I think anyone else would. But uh, I said earlier, the hallmark of infidelity is the secrecy and concealment. So, like Goumah rightly said, betrayal. I can tell you, as a seasoned clinician, with all my years of work, with all my reading and all my research and all my presentations and everything, I personally have no strategy for dealing with betrayal. Whether it's from a friend, a family member, or once you betray me, we are done. I don't have the space to provide you access or proximity to me because my mindset is now doubtful of who I am, let alone who you are. And there had to be one of the things I come to is that there had to be something vulnerable about me that I exposed to you or gave you access to
Hmm.
that made you feel empowered to betray me at a level
Hmm.
that I have to doubt myself.
Hmm.
And because of that, I want to keep what's left. So you're done.
Hmm.
Thank you. To all of our viewers watching, want to thank you for watching this podcast this evening. We have with us Dr. Valah Clinton, a licensed clinician, and we also have Goumah Conde, it's therapist, marriage and counseling therapist. But I wanted to say, did I say it right or I said it wrong?
Family.
It's okay. It's okay.
Marriage and
Family,
family.
Marriage and
marriage
family.
and family, yes. And in the middle of that, marriage and family, God always comes first in there. So you got to balance it out. But if you're watching, thank you for watching. I want to read a question from one of our viewers so that we can make sure that they're also added. Rose is saying, cheating happens everywhere, but in Liberia, it often feels socially accepted, especially in relationships. Why is it that and how did we get to a place where infidelity is seen as normal or even expected? Taking it home.
I think Goumah kind of on the surface mentioned when you are socially acculturated to any way of life, any lifestyle, it becomes your norm.
Mhm.
And we even say sometimes, what kind of man is that? No girlfriend, no outside child, nothing. His wife just happy. What's going on? We question that. Like we question his level of commitment. Because again, that is the social norm that has established the standard by which we are to operate. So it's easier to misinterpret friendship between two people of opposite sex just because we see them together frequently. As expected, there's no way this guy is around this lady for this length of time all the time without them being itemized as lovers. So we see that all the time. And to add to that is that in Liberia, I can speak to that because I live in the culture, but in Liberia, people talk a lot. And so the 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 easiness of turning whatever that connection is into a romantic one comes without effort.
Hmm.
So as a result, people tend to say, "Oh, okay, well, fine. Sarah husband's loving, John loving, Mary's husband loving. So what makes me extra?" That's the societal norm. We are a part of it. Even when you try to make a difference and say, just because it's happening for them or to them, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to accept it. You become the anomaly. You become the standard deviation. Because what she's fighting for, everybody's going through the same thing. But
Yeah.
it's cultural.
Mhm.
So I know that the both of you have done an extensive work on research, talk to people. I'm going to throw this question in not because I like the question or I like the point, but Nominee Walker here is saying monogamy is a Western culture and ideology.
Why did I expect that?
What say you? If he's saying this is a Western, I don't. I mean, I'm not. I don't have the knowledge that you all have, but I can just say that man and wife is not equated to just a Western culture. Marriage is not just a Western culture; it's biblical. But if you want to add, and then his question to that point is, what was the social and cultural norm in Africa before the white came with their monogamy lecture series? Oh my goodness. So anyway, we'll leave Nominee alone and let him stay where he is. But it's
Yes.
certainly I don't
No,
think
I like us to talk about that because it's
okay.
interesting.
Go ahead, Doc.
But I'm looking for something from Albert Einstein. So come on, go ahead.
Okay. Well, well, I don't think it was just introduced to us by the Western culture. I think with more awareness, people begin to value the concept of monogamy. Because what happened was people saw, I have friends who come from um, the polygamy structure, and I've talked to them, and they have talked about some of the dysfunction within, even though you find that too in monogamy, but some of the dysfunction within the polygamy structure, because you have children who suffer, right? You have other wives who don't like this child or that child. And I think eventually people evolve to say, we have a choice. Some people have kept the choice of polygamy, and it's going to continue forever. And some people decided, you know what, we don't want to deal with the stress of our children having to choose where to be or not feeling wanted in certain places. So we're just going to commit to being with each other. So yes, it is biblical, but I think also just as a culture, I think, monogamy became more and more valuable when people began to realize what was happening to the family system as a whole, how it was breaking, the system was breaking down because of the concept of half children or stepchildren or whatever it is people like to label those things as.
Okay,
And I guess nominee will come back with the argument, where did that concept originate?
Mm-hmm,
yes.
How did you come to the place of appreciation
mm-hmm,
for that concept?
mm-hmm,
And so I'm not going to argue his point, but I want to say something. I want to read something from a letter from Albert Einstein. I am sure, and this is when he's helping a lady address infidelity in her marriage
mm-hmm,
from the Western culture, so to speak. I am sure you know that most men, as well as quite a number of women, are not monogamously endowed by nature. Now, that speaks to Nominee's point, right?
mm-hmm.
But yeah, is the thing. Um, it's like saying beating my child is acceptable in Liberia. That's the way of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
What makes that trauma when everybody is going through the same thing? It's culturally acceptable. Why is that trauma? Whereas in the Western culture, they bring you to the awareness that that corporal punishment affects the child differently, impacts the child differently. So back to his point, um, human by nature are adaptable. So you move through evolution, making sense of what works for you on the positive side. But when that culture that he is referencing allows it, in my mindset, that's not infidelity because it's consensual.
Right.
So people go out and even find partners for their partners.
Mm-hmm,
And so you, the first wife or the head wife, get to go out and find the second wife because you're looking for somebody that you get along with as much for that person to become the second wife to your husband. So that's what I would add to that particular part. Yeah, the fact that culturally that was not the norm, and then the Western ideas came when the Westerners came, and this is where they have brought us. But for our personal reasons, we are humans, we adapt, we become aware, and we appreciate what works for us.
mm-hmm.
Beautiful. So just to end this, another question before we continue with our line of questioning, and I think you just answered that. Dean Kessley is saying, I was born in a polygamous family, father with 9 wives and a pleased home. How do you expect me to live with one wife?
Well, well, and I think that, I think that's what I said earlier. There are those
Yeah.
who will reject this and they will continue to reject it, and then there are those who have embraced it and they see the value in it. I think the whole idea of having one wife as coming from Paul in the Bible was really because again people were not at peace. So if you're at peace, then you don't have a problem. But if
Yes.
you're not at peace, then you're going to be drawn toward the one woman, one wife scenario.
Okay. So let's go back to the betrayed partner. We talked about betrayal and we talked about secrecy and concealment when it comes to infidelity. How can a betrayed partner begin to heal emotionally and regain that self worth? Because you've just gone through a serious shocker that your partner is now cheating. How is that person beginning the healing process?
Where do you start? Is your question.
Hmm.
Do you address the betrayer as a whole, or do you address aspects of how you got to where you are? I usually say to people, it takes you one day to find out that your spouse or your partner is cheating, and it takes you multiple years to get over or get past that. Reason being, you are emotionally invested in that relationship. So to deactivate all of that in the one day that you discover is almost impossible. Possible, if not difficult. But yeah, yeah, it's the more serious thing to consider. Infidelity doesn't just affect the relationship in terms of separation and divorce. There's a heavier impact on you as a person. And believe it or not, some people experience, as Goumah said, trauma from that experience. Some people go into various symptoms, go to experience various symptoms of mental health issues, from adjustment mood disorder to um, depression to what some people may term as PTSD, because other things come into play. Because in that moment, you're feeling powerless, you're feeling abandoned, you're feeling like, I don't even need to live. There have been people who have committed suicide because of infidelity. But where you start is, in my opinion, maybe you're not in the right frame of mind to even go through self-reflection. I remember once I gave a friend who was going through an issue self-help read a book, and she kept the book forever until this day. And then one day she laughed when she got through whatever. She laughed and she said, "I'm going through that kind of stress, and you give me a book to read." But again, I was not your professional help. And I was encouraging you to find professional help. Because you weren't receptive to that idea, I felt that it was okay that you explore that option even more. You start to read something, but I understand you're not coherent enough to even read, let alone process what you're reading. So I always say to people, in situations like these, you have confidence. And sometimes your mother, sometimes your father, your brother, you have confidence. Start there, but most so find professional help.
If you want to do that, I need to check something quickly. I'll be right back if you want
Yeah,
to just.
yeah, yeah, sure. I couldn't agree more with the professional help. I think when these things happen, people are so fragile, and then at the same time they're trying to solve the myriad of problems that come with with infidelity, and you, many of us, you're just not in the right frame of mind. So I think, if you're not comfortable with therapy, because many of us are not, and we want to go to the pastor alone, then go to the pastor. If you trust your pastor and you feel like you're going to be safe, go to your pastor. Like Dr. Clinton said, if you have a family member that you trust, or a friend that you trust, you feel safe with that person, go to that person. But trying to solve this all on your own can be, the loneliness alone is going to overwhelm you, right? Even if we don't want to use the word trauma, just the loneliness, when you're going through this by yourself with nobody else to process this with, that alone will overwhelm you and make you sick. Now, Glennie asked, how do you overcome this? If the goal is to repair the relationship, then it's going to take the two of you to overcome this. It's not going to just require you alone to do it. And even with the two of you, again, you're going to need a sounding board, somebody that you can bounce things off of. Because there are moments when you're going to be very upset, the moments that you're not going to be trusting, the moments you're going to be angry, and all of those emotions are welcomed, but they can't last forever. So you're going to need someone who can say, okay, now you've done enough of this. Let's try this. right? So having somebody else walking alongside the two of you is important. I prefer you going to a clinician. The reason I say that is because if you go to a therapist, that person is neutral. They don't know you. They don't know your partner. They may not even know anybody in your community, and you get to have this confidential space. Now you can't come to me, but you can go to somebody in your community, right? In your neighborhood. But you get to have this confidential space where you can really sort through the issues that you have, the both of you, because every relationship reaches this place because two people have contributed to it in some way, knowingly or unknowingly. So you get to work on the both of you get to work on each other. You get to work on the relationship, which is a whole different entity, and then you can move forward.
Just to add to that, you mentioned goal. That's very big because if you go to the professional or to the clinician, that person facilitates the process. They provide you the tools and then they guide you through the process so that you have goals, short term and long term, and that will help you get through.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I think we come almost touch on this a little bit because the follow-up question was this: the person who has been who was betrayed, the healing process, and now follow-up question would have been what would be the role of the partner? How is that person going to also help the situation? But I think you talked about it. How
Yeah, let me just add this to that then to that part before we move
Mhm.
on. So, and Dr. Clinton hinted to this a little bit. So there are two things that this we'll call them the affair partner is going to be at least try to be consistent with. One is the transparency piece, and the other part is the honesty piece. Those are two different things. Honesty just means I'm going to be truthful when you ask me questions. Transparency means I'm going to volunteer and give you information even if you're not asking me. Those two things a fair partner will be responsible for.
I'm constrained to add to that as much as I don't want to prolong it.
That's okay.
But when we talk about the transparency piece, that is making sure you're secure enough not to be asking questions, not to be looking for answers. So, but let's not minimize that even the affair partner or the perpetrator goes through emotions during these times. Maybe even worse than the what do we call what
Yeah,
do you call them?
worse than the
The
betrayed partner.
betrayed partner. Yes.
Mhm.
So some of those people even have go through depression. Some of them turn to substance abuse or
Yeah,
substance use. So we have to weigh it because we're talking about clinical impact. We're not just talking about cheating for the fun of it or that is acceptable in Liberia, but it's that
right.
the clinical impact that affects everybody involved. We have to make sure we are considering. So that person is also going through some of those experiences. However, that transparency is when you're secure enough not to be looking for answers.
Okay, I wanna bring the because Goumah is a family and marriage counselor. I want to bring the children in this piece.
Mm.
So you have a family, you have kids, and the children, and then the okay, of course they hear about the concerns or the complaints, or they hear mama's complaining that daddy did this, or the mother tells them your father did this, or the father tells them your mom did this to me and she cheated or he cheated. What is the role of the children? I mean, who reaches out to them? Who finds out how they're feeling? How do they react to both part? What usually happens when you do counseling? I'm sure both of you know is that what happens to the kids?
Mm.
How are they feeling?
Well, you want to go, Dr. Clinton? You're
No, you
going?
go.
Yeah. Look, the ideal way to go about this is that the two adults will start the process. That's the ideal way, right? You find out, you decide what you want to do. Because, first of all, you have options here. Are you going to stay together? Are you going to separate? Are you going to be together in the same home, but maybe not in a romantic relationship because
Hmm.
you have children? People take all of those options. into consideration. So once you decide what you're going to do as a couple, then you decide, first of all, if you're going to share this with the kids. And then if you're going to, you decide how you're going to do it. Are you going to do it together? Are you going to do it individually? The best way we always say is do it together as a team so that both the children feel like the two of you are unified in this, especially if you're going to choose to work on it. That means you're saying we have a rupture in our relationship, but we're committed to it. You're not going to be disturbed by this. We'll do all that we can do in our power to make sure you all are okay. Mommy's going to be okay. Daddy's going to be okay. Or Papa will be okay. Mama will be okay, however you call it. Don't worry. And then you decide to move forward slowly. Doesn't mean the kids are not still going to check in. In this world, most times I advise my clients to put the kids with a child therapist who can help them. And so they will work through that. In other cultures, sometimes they don't want the kids to go to therapy. So then I say, well, then you have to check in with your children, right? So especially if they've chosen to include the kids, then that means you're going to have like a family meeting, maybe every 6 months. Check in. How are you all feeling? You all still okay? Mommy and daddy, we're okay. We're good. We're getting along. Things are getting better, right? So that's the process. So, but the couples, they have choices there. Some share, some don't share. It just depends. But you still check in with the kids.
And in either situation, just be aware the kids are aware, whether you tell them or not. They know it. They have doubts. They have questions. They have confusion. They're wondering what's happening. They see it. They know it. They feel it. They may not understand it, but through the process, they begin, or the older they get, they begin to put one and one together. It starts to make sense. But I always like to prioritize the children just because you impact them more than you are impacted as adults. So whatever you do, consider their well-being. And remember that they are just as aware as you are. And sometimes, if you're not careful, you end up producing what we call codependency in your children just from that situation, because they tend to take on the adult role of being the caregiver, especially for the victim parent.
True.
But then they don't have all the information. They don't know what to do, but they care. And you produce one person as an adult in tomorrow's world who is just going around overshadowing their own issues with other people's issues under the disguise of being a caregiver. And that's why I can't go back to school, because I have to make sure my mom is okay, or that's why I can't get a job, because I have to be sure my siblings come from school and they're taken care of, they're protected. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, we neglect the fact that children too have feelings. And so we're hurting, we're in that moment, and we forget to check in on them and see what do they know, how are they feeling. We completely forget, because I don't know whether it is, and I can say that because that was in my situation when I was about to deal with divorce. I didn't think it was a conversation for me to have with my children. I was afraid to tell them. I was scared. I didn't know how they would react. But then finally, I'm like, this is where I am, and I want you all to know that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to do this for me, and I'm going to be okay. But I think sometimes we're overprotective on what we need to tell our children, that in the process we end up hurting them. Now, that's not a counselor. That's just an experienced person talking.
And it can be clinical.
No, but you're right, and that's precisely why I always advocate for me. In your case, you're going to separate, so you did the right thing by telling them yourself. I always advocate for the couple sharing with the children, so that also that way you reduce the chances of the kids being parentified, like Dr. Clinton was sharing. Because if both people are sharing, now it can't be, well, have pity on me, mama, or have pity on me, daddy. It is, okay, we're looking out for both of you, and you are looking out for us. So we're all looking out for each other within the family system.
Yes.
And in that conversation, sometimes people say, we want you to be aware that it has nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. we have to address it as our fault. But we're here for you, and we will continue to be responsible for you and to you.
Yes. So let me take one last question from the feed. Yeah, the feed is booming. Normally got the feed. A lot of people participating and sending questions. So Rose is saying again, and from a woman's perspective, that's a woman's question. So don't come after her, people watching. She said, too many women are silently hurting. They remain in toxic marriages, not out of weaknesses, but because of shame, guilt, and fear of judgment, especially in our Liberian society. We must break this cycle. In a society where living is judged more harshly than suffering, how do we shift the mindset?
Very good question, Rose. Here's the thing. I think the question to ask is, we're going to judge you either way.
Yes.
So, what's your preference? Being judged for suffering or being judged for feeling empowered and making a decision that benefits you? And even, but to push it, even sometimes when I speak with domestic violence perpetrators and I get the chance to just do a hotline with some of the victims, you get the response or the response that the children. And I know you stay to protect the children. My question for you, what are you teaching the children? To stay in unwelcome situations, to endure unnecessary pain, or to have self-esteem enough to know your self-worth and walk away. The public sentiment is always going to be there, like it or not, misjudge or judge, interpreter or misinterpreter. People will talk. I just told you Liberians talk, period. I can't speak to other cultures because I don't live in those cultures. Liberians talk. Whether you do it right, wrong, or indifferent, they will talk. But self-care is important. And if you don't prioritize that, toxicity is your portion. So much so that it becomes your norm. And either way, you give in. But let me caution you, don't give in, don't give up. What you can do is give what is necessary for you to get past that situation and do well by you, for you, and the people who are also affected by what you're going through.
Before you come in, Goumah, I want to say something. That response is so profound. That response took me years to get there. Because my concern was, what would they say about me? I was married to a pastor, principal of a high school. It's like, what are they going to say about me? The negativity. And then I'm in there and I'm not taking care of me. I'm taking care of what's going to happen if I did that. And, and then it's like, when you say, it's like, who are you doing it for? The empowerment that comes after you say, this is enough, this is not working, I need to move away. But it's not easy. And that question is a serious question for a lot of us in our society, Liberian society, because sometimes people don't know what people are going through and they judge them. We judge them not knowing what are some of the situations. Not that marriage is a good thing. It's a good union. I respect the decency of marriage, but sometimes we're hurting and we're in situations that we're not taking care of ourselves because we're so concerned about other people. I've been there. It took me a long time to get there, and it almost felt like, and I don't mean to get counsel right now, but it almost felt like for years I was two different persons. And, because I could not find my foot bearing, like, who am I? I'm not who I want to be. I'm not who I am. But I find myself doing this because I'm pleasing two group of people. the naysayers and then myself, and in the end I end up losing myself. And the choice was, you need to be able to make a decision for you. And so that empowerment has come. So thank you. I just got counsel. Thank you so much. Come on, go ahead.
No, I mean, there's not much to really add to that. I think what I would say is, when she talks about how do we change the mindset, I think that's what you're doing. That's what
Yes.
you're doing. When you're having these conversations, when you're on having, people who can talk about what it is, what divorce looks like, what affair is, when you stay, when you leave, what choices you have. It is the awareness that people need. When we are aware, then we can make informed decisions. So I think that's what you're doing. Every time you tune into one of these podcasts, or you read a book, or you go to a workshop where they're talking about these things, the more we talk about these things in the community, the more empowered people become. And then they'll make a decision when they have to. For those who are, Liberia is a big Christian population. So I know those of us who, come from the church, most of us stay because of that. Because I come from the church. And what's going to happen if I leave? It said, am I sinning against God for me to do this? I always say God is not in favor of abuse.
Amen.
God is not in favor of abuse. There's nowhere in scripture, nowhere, where you hear God say, well, stay and endure the abuse. He said, don't suffer the children when they were being chastised and taken away from him. He said, don't suffer them, right? When the woman was, quote unquote, caught in the act of adultery, he said, who doesn't have sin? So God's not in favor of abuse at all. So if you're staying, it's not in honor of God. It's in honor of people. So the question to ask is, who am I honoring? Am I honoring God? Or am I honoring culture?
So you just went to our next question. Is that the question was going to be, what signs can help someone know whether to stay and work on the relationship or walk away? And I think you've touched on that a little bit. I don't know if Doc wanted to talk about that a little bit, but I think in this question, is it about you?
Yeah, but you're looking for signs from the other person.
Yes.
Your primary person remains you.
Yes.
What makes you comfortable? What makes you want to stick out this and succeed at it? And again, we can name multiple reasons: the church, my job, my profession, my image, my children. And some people just summarize everything. Oh, I really love him, or oh, I really love her. And one of the things that comes to mind every time people say, I really love the person, that's not enough reason to stay. Because I'm one of those people who feel that people truly love you, as Goumah said, when they say they love you. But remember now, they love themselves just as much.
Yes.
So when it comes down to it, they're satisfying their desires with the same love for you. But they love themselves just as well, or just as much. And so they'll do that. But the signs you're looking for will be determined by you. You know what works for you. And some people, again, by learned helplessness, decide as long as he comes home every night, we're fine. Or as long as he comes home or he's supposed to home, we're fine. So they just stay alone. And I know I've heard this in Liberia before. Oh, I will not divorce him. When he died, they'll call me. She would not bury him. She would not be the chief mourner. I'll still get the benefit. I'll still get the recognition. So then again, the question for you is, what is your priority and what is your goal? Are you looking for the recognition? Are you benefiting from the title? Are you benefiting from his name because it's well known in the society and it's helped you get through barriers? What is your benefit for staying?
So let's move into counseling. You're dealing with infidelity, or you've come across that. You're working on a relationship. What therapy are you recommending? Couples therapy or individual therapy, or both?
It depends. I've worked with people who have said your issues are too much. So you got to work on you and get to the place where you're receptive to couples therapy. But then there are people who are willing, ready, and able to jump right into couples therapy. And then there are people who are not benefit, but I always warn, therapy is not to save your marriage or your relationship. Therapy is to help you come to that place where you're making a decision for you. And sometimes people leave therapy with that conclusion that we need to separate. And then they become best friends. And it works better for them. Therapy is only helping you to get to that place where you make a decision that is best for you. It's not to save your marriage.
Come on.
I recommend both. I start with individual and then eventually couples. If there is abuse, I don't recommend marriage therapy, especially if I think this person's life is in danger. I don't. Then it is individual therapy because that person needs to be empowered to make a decision, for self. So but I normally would say go to individual therapy and then go to couples therapy, and figure a way out of this. Whatever you choose to do, that's on you as a couple. But at least you will have all of the information, because a lot of the things we're talking about, whether you're staying because you want the person's name or you want the value that comes with staying in the marriage, right? All of those things, they come from deeper inner issue that you have to work through. So in individual therapy, hopefully you get to work on those things, and then you can go into your couples work together.
Thank you. Thank you
But
so much.
that's a big one in our community, the staying for the name. I like
Yes.
that. Yep, that's a big
Yes.
one. Mhm.
Just to keep the name. But we've been here for over an hour now, and I think it's been very, very interesting. We learned a lot in the process. Some of my movements, my moving forward was validated in the conversation. Like I made the right decision. But let's end on this very soft, funny note. Nominee again is saying, say, so how do we reconcile Sarah bringing Hagar to Abraham? He said, oh, we should just continue this conversation and forget about Abraham and Hagar. Oh, my goodness.
We can reconcile that by referencing the cultural aspect to it. And also saying that, of course, it was consensual. But here's the thing. The mistake, in my opinion, the mistake that Sarah made was to not consider Hagar's culture, because her goal was to satisfy Abraham's desire for a child. And they had the child, so that goal was fulfilled. But in her understanding, that child would have been for the married couple. In Hagar's culture, you don't give up your child. That's wrong on the part of a mother. So for that reason, she had to stay in the picture, stay with her child. That caused the problem. But again, we said that's how God wanted it to be.
Yeah.
You got it worked out.
Come on, you want to
Nominee.
Nominee is something else.
Nominee, some things are older than us, our old folks used to say, right? Some things are older than us. And every behavior has a story.
Yes.
So, I'm not, I hear what the Bible say, but if I sat with Sarah today, I wonder what she'll tell me about the reason why she did what she did. And because I don't have her to sit with,
so I'm not going to assume.
That's a good one.
All right. But thank you all so much. Before we close, if you all can just, everybody who's been watching, want to appreciate you for watching this evening. A few weeks ago, we were on talking about, we had Sisig Goya, we had Ina May, and we also had Janet Freeman on. We're talking about cheating in a relationship. And so we wanted to follow that up with licensed people who knew and who will give us some recommendations and some information on on the process of healing, process of rebuilding trust and moving forward. So this evening we had Dr. Valah Clinton and Doctor, you hear me calling Doctor Goumah?
It's coming. It's
It's
coming.
coming. It's coming. And therapist Goumah and Conde here, my two favorite counselors in the whole wide world, who I always look up to and I always respect their opinion. So as we go, just sum it all up for us in closing comments so that we can go. And of course, people saying, please tag me in the next episode. Don't worry, we'll find an episode. And when they have the time, we'll certainly invite them when the right time works. So Goumah, we'll start with you and then Dr. Clinton.
Yes. Well, thanks for having me on. And of course, I always enjoy being on with my big brother. Those of you who don't know, he is a big brother to me. So I'm always honored to be on with him because I learned so much from him, and I'm just very proud of him. Um, to summarize, I really just want to say that affairs happen all the time. People don't cheat because they don't care. People cheat most times because they think they have the power not to.
Hmm.
And because they think they have the power not to, they let their guards down and things happen. For us as Liberians, many of us are socialized to cheat. It's very common in the culture. That's what we do, that's what we saw happen. So we just let it go. Doesn't mean that it's healthy. I don't like using the word normal in these situations, but it doesn't mean that it's healthy because people get hurt. The children get hurt. The system is hurt. And it just creates a lot of long-term problems for individuals. So my suggestion is if you feel like you're in that place or you're struggling with this or your marriage is struggling with it, get some help for yourself. Whether you want to start with books or workshops, if you're not the person who's going to go to counseling, if you're struggling, if it's an addiction for you, because that's another piece, that's a whole different topic that we could have just had a whole hour on. Sometimes it's addiction, and that can be a serious problem for people when they're really struggling, and nobody is really looking at that person who's struggling with the addiction. We just call them cheaters. So get the help for yourself, get the help for your relationship, because the truth is you can have a healthy, functional relationship. You don't have to suffer because of infidelity. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Goumah. Dr. Clinton?
Of course, thanks for having me. And needless to say how proud I am of you, Goumah, and the many things, watch you grow up from child to where we all are. I'm sure, we can talk a lot about our experiences.
Yeah.
But I also am proud to mention that the parents we come from and the people who raised us collectively or individually kind of led us to where we are today. So I don't think it's by mistake we are where we are. So
Yes.
kudos to you.
Yes.
You talk about socialization. So that one man, one wife type thing, that's what some people are exposed to. But again, what I want to say in closing is that infidelity is consequential, whether to an individual, a couple, a whole community, or a system. It's consequential. Your tendency, because I don't want to call it decision, your tendency to endorse it without any sensitivity compromises more than you can ever imagine. For that reason, I urge us as people to seek awareness. Listen to the any show, listen to any talk show, read books, inform yourselves, educate yourselves, become aware of those things that you see as priority in your emotional well-being. And if anything is violated in that list or on that list, It is upon you to make a decision that best suits you. As far as public judgment goes, you cannot control what other people do or say, but you are responsible for your own actions. And to climax it, like we said, beneath the behavior is a need. And until you address the need, you have done nothing to solve it.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Clinton. Thank you, Goumah. Thank you so much for coming. Now we have some balance on this conversation of cheating. People are saying, why you just behind the cheating topic? Why you just behind the cheating topic? I say you're just leaving it. But thank you all so much for taking off your time. We're looking forward to the time where we can just come and bring clinicians on here and not say we appreciate you. Thank you for what you've done. So that time is coming soon. I appreciate you for all that you do, how you carry yourself, how you entertain us, and how you tell us which way to go. Wishing you all the best. Maybe the next time we have Goumah, she will be Dr. Conde.
It's coming.
All right. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening. All right.
Good evening, Lindy.
All right. So, folks, there you have it. Amazing two people. I'm telling you, these are the first two counselors that I go to. I trust their opinion. They always give it to you. They're always busy, but they always make time to come and talk to us. We're closing this subject of cheating. We've talked about it from a layman's perspective. Me, Sisse, Enid, and Jande, we approached it from our experiences or what we know or what we heard. And now we brought clinicians to come and close this on the topic. Like Dr. Clinton said, read books, listen to some stories, do some research, check on it, and be informed so that when you get into situations, you will have some background information of where you headed. I don't know when next we're going to be on, but I want to say thank you for watching tonight. Thank you so very much. 2 days back to back, we've had a show, and tonight we want to say thanks for always coming and always watching. I know you're busy. We all are busy, but it's important. There are some things that our conversations in our community, we need to be able to hit those nitty-gritty areas, those areas that have affected us, those areas that we may come across in the future. We want to be able to expose them to the community so that we as a people can talk about it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Happy Juneteenth. This is Freedom This Weekend. It's going to be an amazing weekend. Let me just send shout out my classmates, my high school classmates this weekend from Cathedral High School, class of 1985. We will be celebrating our 40th anniversary. It will not be easy. Imagine converging with people that you were in class with 40 years ago. It's going to be an amazing weekend. We're looking forward to it. We'll be celebrating in Stafford, Virginia, very close to where I am, but I'm going to be there for the entire weekend. So watch out. Wherever you see me, you're going to see my phone. You are going to be part of that celebration. We thank God that He has been able to sustain us as a class and that we can come together and celebrate 40 years. Bye-bye. Have a great evening, and we'll see you out there in Facebook land. Goodbye.